Welcome to Mission Minute News. I'm Dominican Sister of Mission San Jose, Jean Harris. First, the headlines. Habemus Papam. Pope Leo XIV, coat of arms and motto. Leo's pectoral cross holds sacred relics. The legacy of Francis. Pope charges cardinals to respond to digital revolution. Rome hosts Jubilee of Eastern churches. Pastoral ministry at universities in Slovakia. These stories and more on Mission Minute News. Habemus Papam. On May 8, 2025, Cardinal Protodeacon Dominique Momberti announced to the waiting world, Habemus Papam, we have a pope. Shortly thereafter, we heard, "Peace be with all of you," the first words of Pope Leo XIV. Robert Francis Cardinal Prevost is now Bishop of Rome and leader of the Universal Catholic Church, elected on the fourth ballot of the conclave. Prior to his election, Pope Leo was prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops, and now he himself is the 267th Bishop of Rome. The first Augustinian to become Pope, Leo XIV is the second Roman pontiff after Pope Francis from the Americas. But unlike Jorge Mario Bergoglio, the 69-year-old Robert Francis Prevost is from the northern part, but also spent many years as a missionary in Peru. Pope Leo XIV was born on September 14, 1955 in Chicago, Illinois, as were his parents, Louis Marius Prevost of French and Italian descent, and Mildred Martinez of Spanish and mixed-race descent. He has two brothers, Louis Martin and John Joseph. He spent his childhood and adolescence with his family in Chicago and studied first at the Minor Seminary of the Augustinian Fathers and then at Villanova University in Pennsylvania, where in 1977 he earned a degree in mathematics and studied philosophy. On September 1st of the same year, Prevost entered the novitiate of the Order of St. Augustine in St. Louis, in the province of Our Lady of Good Counsel, and made his first profession on September 2nd, 1978, and then on August 29, 1981, he made his solemn profession of vows. He received his theological education at the Catholic Theological Union in Chicago. At the age of 27, he was sent by his superiors to Rome to study canon law at the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas, known as the Angelicum, and was ordained on June 19, 1982, by Archbishop Jean Jadot at the Augustinian International College of St. Monica, Rome. Prevost obtained his licentiate in 1984 and worked as the Vocation and Mission Director of the Augustinian Province, Illinois. The following year, he joined the mission in Trujillo, Peru, as Director of the Joint Formation Project for Augustinian candidates from the vicariates of Chulucanas, Iquitos, and Apurimac, serving in many capacities, including pastoral ministry, over the next 11 years. In 1999, he was elected provincial prior of the Augustinian province in Chicago, and 2.5 years later, prior general for the whole order for the next 12 years. On November 3, 2014, Pope Francis appointed him apostolic administrator of the Peruvian Diocese of Chiclayo, giving him the titular Diocese of Sufar, and the next year appointing him Bishop of Chiclayo. On January 30, 2023, Pope Francis called him to Rome to be prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops and president of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America, making him Archbishop and then cardinal in the consistory of September that same year. As head of the dicastery, he participated in the Pope's apostolic journeys and in both the first and second sessions of the Synod on Synodality, October 2023 and 24. During Pope Francis' hospitalization, Prevost presided over the rosary offered for his recovery in St. Peter's Square, March the 3rd. Pope Leo's coat of arms and motto. Pope Leo XIV's coat of arms and motto clearly reflect Augustinian roots and the values that he will promote during his pontificate, particularly unity and communion within the Church. The shield is divided diagonally into two sections. The upper half features a white lily on blue. The lower, on a light background, the Augustinian image of a closed book and a heart pierced by an arrow, a direct reference to the conversion of St. Augustine, who describes his personal encounter with God's Word as vulnerasti cor meum verbo tuo. You have pierced my heart with your word. The Pope's motto also reflects the Augustinian charism, matching his own way of acting and thinking. In illo uno unum, which means in the one, we are one, taken from Augustine's exposition on Psalm 127, in which he explains, although we Christians are many, in the one Christ we are one. This Pope says, promoting unity and communion is fundamental. Leo's pectoral cross holds sacred relics. The pectoral cross, or cross on a prelate's chest, carries special symbolism. Pope Leo XIV's cross contains relics, actual fragments of bone from saints deeply connected to the Augustinian order, witnesses to faith, fidelity, reform, service, and martyrdom. The relics were chosen by Father Joseph Chiberras, postulator general of the Augustinians, as a gift to their confrere upon his being created a cardinal. The 4th century relics of St. Augustine and his mother, St. Monica, reflect a beautiful intertwining of their lives, a cornerstone of Augustinian spirituality. The order of St. Augustine from 1244 and its ideals of community life, apostolic service, spirituality, and study, and the deep and enduring bond between mother and son, Monica and Augustine, as she prayed tirelessly for his conversion, something he reverenced in his confessions as gift from God. The legacy of Francis. Now that we are placing the completed papacy of Pope Francis gently and gratefully into the annals of church history, it's time to analyze and summarize his legacy. At least that's what the position of one writer in the Los Angeles Archdiocese. David Cloutier has written a comprehensive article on the subject in the May 6th edition of the Archdiocesan magazine Angelus. This is no small task, as Francis' trips around the globe and very readable writings were numerous, heavily researched, and deeply meaningful. Besides all that, books have already been written about and by Francis. His biographer from 2014, Austin Ivory, summed up his ministry style with individual persons as the greater the fragility, the greater the response from him. Although Pope Francis wrote prolifically on doctrinal topics, especially regarding sacred scripture, probably his most signature statements were his science-based, sweeping conclusions about Earth, our common home, and its inhabitants, all people, and the interplay between the treatment of earth by power people and the well-being of people who have little or no power, that is, integral ecology. Francis' vision was not entirely novel, but he had the mind and heart to pick up the baton passed by earlier popes and run with it in greater clarity and urgency, calling governments and businesses worldwide to stand with those on the margins. Like Leo XIII in 1891, Francis was urged by the Spirit to speak on behalf of the margins, calling all Catholics to consciousness of this true Christian mission. And yes, he not only spoke and wrote of this, but also got down and dirty in tender actions. Yet his bias for the poor did not prevent him from proposing and praying for all of society to benefit from exchanging gifts, uniting people around the world and in everyday relationships. Thus, we have the legacy of Pope Francis I. Pope charges cardinals to respond to digital revolution. In his first address to the College of Cardinals, Pope Leo XIV invoked the legacy of both Pope Francis and Pope Leo XIII, saying that he wants the Church to respond to a new industrial revolution and to the development of artificial intelligence. Revealing his reason for choosing the name Leo, with its echo of the Church's enduring commitment to human dignity and social justice, the Pope recalled Pope Leo XIII, with the historic encyclical Rerum Novarum, addressed the social question in the context of the first great industrial revolution. Today, the Church offers to all her treasures of social teaching in response to another industrial revolution and the developments of artificial intelligence. The new Bishop of Rome also paid tribute to his predecessor, Pope Francis' simplicity, radical dedication to service, and peaceful return to the Father's house. Let us treasure this precious legacy and resume our journey, he said, animated by the same hope that comes from faith. Then, looking to the future, Pope Leo backed the teachings of Vatican II, as renewed and reinterpreted under Pope Francis, whose apostolic exhortation Evangelii Gaudium emphasizes the primacy of Christ, synodality, sensus fidei, the supernatural sense of the faithful, popular piety, care for the poor, and courageous engagement with the world. Rome hosts Jubilee of Eastern Churches. From May 12 to 14, the Vatican hosted the Jubilee of Eastern Catholic Churches, which celebrates a series of divine liturgies in various Eastern rites. An Ethiopian rite liturgy was prayed on May 12th in St. Peter's Basilica, led by the churches of Ethiopia and Eritrea, while the Armenian Church celebrated the Divine Liturgy in the Basilica of St. Mary Major, followed by a Coptic liturgy. Divine Liturgy in the East Syriac Rite, with the anaphora of Adai and Mari, the ancient Eucharistic prayer of the Church of the East, was celebrated on May 13 at St. Peter's, led by the Chaldean and Syro-Malabar churches, and in the evening, St. Mary Major hosted Vespers organized by the Syriac, Maronite, and Syro-Malankara churches. The Akathist hymn, a song of praise to the Mother of God from the Byzantine liturgy, was rendered on the forecourt later in the evening. On the final day of the Jubilee, May 14, following an audience with Pope Leo XIV, A divine liturgy in the Byzantine Rite was celebrated at St. Peter's by the Greek Melkite, Ukrainian Greek, and Romanian Greek Catholic churches, and the other Byzantine Rite churches. There are 23 self-governing Eastern Catholic churches in full communion with the Pope that preserve distinct liturgical rites, theology, and traditions rooted in Eastern Christianity. Most of these churches originated from historical reunions between Eastern Orthodox communities and the Roman Catholic Church, and they can be found across Eastern Europe, the Middle East, India, and parts of Africa, with communities in the diaspora worldwide. Addressing the Eastern Catholic faithful, the Holy Father said, "You are precious in God's eyes," and expressed his happiness at being able to devote one of the first encounters of his pontificate to the Eastern faithful. "Looking at you," he said, "I think of the diversity of your origins, your glorious history, and the bitter sufferings that many of you, your communities, have endured or continue to endure. The Church needs you," Pope Leo said. "The contribution that the Christian East can offer us today is immense," he continued, pointing to the need to recover the sense of mystery expressed in Eastern liturgies, the importance of rediscovering the sense of the primacy of God and of mystagogy, and the need for penance, fasting, and weeping for one's own sin, and for those of all humanity. He wholeheartedly encouraged them to, quote, "preserve your traditions without attenuating them." Pastoral ministry at universities in Slovakia. Priests and other administrators working in pastoral ministry in universities met in Donalvali, central Slovakia, during the weekend of March 7 to 9 to share their experiences and activities. The meeting was also attended by Bishop Tomas Galis of Žilina, who is responsible for youth pastoral care for the Bishops' Conference of Slovakia. Divine Word missionaries are in their third decade of pastoring college youth in Slovakia. The first center was founded by Father Milan Bubak, SVD, in Bratislava, and continues to this day. In the summer of 2024, SVDs acquired the spiritual administration of the Pastoral Center in Rizombarok. Walk with Hope inspires youth. The 14th vocational walk by the SVDs under the motto, "The Hope of the New Fishing," from John 21, and organized by Father João Vianney in Lisbon, was much more than just a gathering of young people. It was a real dive into faith, listening and sharing. From May 2nd to 4th, at the parish of Santa Marta do Casal de Chambers, participants from 13 nationalities formed a living testimony to the universal beauty of the Church. Despite the inclement weather, the program sparkled with moving testimonies and moments of deep prayer. Words of a couple, Tanya and Nuno, Dr. Renato, seminarians, Sister Maria Mendez, SSPS, and Father Domingos G, SVD, echoed appeals from the Spirit. Music and vigil warmed the night, and the Sunday Eucharist, presided over by Father Jose Maria, SVD, Provincial Superior in Portugal, sealed the experience with deep gratitude. Everyone returned home certain that Jesus is still calling young people and calling on all to cast our nets courageously and fish for open hearts. Jubilee and Laudato Si celebrations in the Philippines. In celebration of the Society of the Divine Word's 150th founding anniversary, an interpretative dance show titled In the Light of the Word Concert was held at SVD Tagaytay, Philippines Gymnasium on April 26, 2025. The concert started with a short memorial service in tribute to our beloved departed Holy Father, Pope Francis, who must have been very happy with the splendid performances and how everyone, including the audience, lent a hand to make the event a resounding success. Participants were the Alternative Learning System students, the SVD Tagaytay youth and kids, the employees, our co-missionaries, the scholastics, the postulants, and the DWIMS, together with SVD priests. The administration and the whole SVD Tagaytay community gratefully ask God's blessing on all for their prayers, presence, and generous support of the event. Another event, the tree planting activity held at SVD Farms, St. Peter's Fish Pond and Gazebo in commemoration of the 10th anniversary of Laudato Si, was a grand success. As committed stewards of creation, the participants helped plant not just trees, but also hope and healing for Earth, our common home. Javierata pilgrims. On March 15th, 5 students from the SVD Cross-Cultural Training Program in the Spain province took part in the Javierata, a traditional pilgrimage to the castle of Javier in Navarra, the birthplace of St. Francis Xavier, patron saint of missions. Joined by parish youth groups from Divine Word and Holy Spirit Missionary Sisters communities in Spain and Portugal, the students shared a day of spiritual renewal, fellowship, and missionary reflection, alongside thousands of other young pilgrims from across Spain. The Javierata pilgrimage originated in 1886 as an expression of thanksgiving to St. Francis Xavier for protecting Navarra from a cholera epidemic. Officially established in 1940, the pilgrimage evolved into an essential spiritual tradition in the Navarra region. Initially, the Javieratas were held on the first 2 Sundays of March, coinciding with the Novena of Grace celebrated at the Castle of Javier, and were originally designated as separate pilgrimages for men and for women. SVD radio stations, Paraguay. Since September 8, 2010, the Divine Word missionaries in Paraguay have operated 2 radio stations, Radio El Verbo 101.3 FM and Radio La Voz de la Libertad on AM 1190. SVDs launched this initiative 15 years ago as part of the centennial celebration of their presence in Paraguay. The stations air messages of faith, Christian values, biblical and missionary programs, and recreational content from early morning to late night, using this powerful tool to raise awareness and speak on behalf of the margins. To enhance the quality of service, in January 2023, new broadcasting and recording studios were opened at the Centro Misional Santa Teresa de Calcutta, reflecting the SVD commitment to expanding their reach beyond radio to social media platforms like Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp. With their new TV radio app, all programming plus Eucharistic celebrations from San Lucas Parish are now accessible to a global audience. Additionally, the stations support services for indigenous communities in the Diocese of Alto Paraná, and health care throughout Ciudad del Este's urban area. In the midst of human inconstancy. A few days ago, on the internal road in Catholic Theological Institute, CTI, I met a group of children who came looking for fresh flowers. They needed them to decorate their home for the time of mourning. Here in Papua New Guinea, at the funeral of loved ones, everyone has a role to play, even small children. They collect flowers and decorate the house kra, the house of mourning. During the conversation with the children, I asked their names. Two girls aged 12 and 10 were Bernadette and Faustina. Very pretty names, strongly identified with the Catholic Church. So I asked if they were Catholics. Bernadette replied that she was. I noticed in these words and her shy look a certain sadness and even some longing. It is hard to believe that this little girl would decide to change her religious community on her own. Her parents probably decided to go to another church, and this is nothing exceptional here. On Divine Mercy Sunday, I spoke with Mrs. Rachel from the prison service. She spoke proudly of her Catholic affiliation, but noted that her father, who lived in Madang on the island's northern coast, had converted to Pentecostalism. Many young people are leaving the Catholic Church. When I asked the newly baptized Lorna why this is happening, she replied that young people want to live a life of ease, without strict rules and requirements. Many want to have fun, not consciously live their life choices. And some communities offer such a way of experiencing faith without major obligations and providing the possibility of entertainment during their services. My brother Jersey, noticed something else. These communities are often better organized and able to involve young people in their activities. The reasons for such movement from one community to another can be different and complex. So, life brings both optimistic situations when it may seem that everything in our missionary activity is going in the right direction, but there are also moments that are like a bucket of cold water and bring us down to earth, making us understand that we still have to deepen our own life with the gospel in order to be clear witnesses of Christ among people. How good it is that beyond our delights and discouragements, there is always God, who has a plan for every person and consistently realizes it. And humans cannot prevent him from doing so. Knowing this, we are not closed in fear, but rather filled with trust, which amid the inconstancy of this world gives invincible peace. These have been the musings of a Divine Word missionary from Poland, Father Władysław Maziar, who is ministering in the Archdiocese of Port Moresby on the southern coast of Papua New Guinea. If you have a comment or question about any of our stories, please email us at missionminutenews@wordnet.tv. You can also post your comments below each video on YouTube. We promise to respond. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon. Share with others about the channel and the variety of programs you enjoy there. Please join us every Wednesday for our online Eucharist and Adoration and Benediction of the Blessed Sacrament, starting at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. You can always catch it later on YouTube. Send your prayer intentions for Eucharist by phone to 909-383-4333 or by email to mail@wordnet.tv. This is Mission Minute News. Until we meet again, stay safe and well, and may Jesus' love for you make you smile.